this screen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another jam-packed day. Here we go again. What's up, BitBop? We have a pretty packed day. I mean, Mamdani at 9:30, March for Life at 10. We have Mamdani 9:30, JD Vance, Mike Johnson, Trump, all at 10 for the March for Life. All of Trump's other speeches for the day appear to be marked as closed press. Maybe he'll open some of those up to the press. That would be kind of interesting. Not packed at all, only 3 events. Oh, I mean, there's 4 markets already. Trump, JD, Mike Johnson, and Mamdani. I just mean for like the first bit of the day, it's pretty packed. Having this many mentions back to back. Yeah, there's a market BitBop for Trump at the March for Life, which is starting at 10. Right now, Mamdani's supposed to come out like right now. He's giving an announcement on the snowstorm. Personally, I mean, I picked up some no affordables in the mid 40s, high 40s. It's my only like pre-market position. Could be missing here, but obviously kind of thinking this is going to center more around the snowstorm, just purely vibes based of like, is 50% a fair strike for affordable? Obviously, with Q&A and stuff like that, they can ask anything. So maybe this is a bad buy, but we'll see. Maybe we'll sell out before Q&A if it gets crazy. Trying to see if I can get a better stream to ABC 7. Yeah, ABC 7 has a stream on this. Okay, should be faster than Mamdani's. Let me pull that up. But yeah, BitBop, they have this event for Trump, the March for Life address. And then they have JD, March for Life address, Mike Johnson, March for Life address. Looks like Trump's supposed to give an announcement at 10 a.m. and then JD and Mike Johnson are 11 a.m. I did not play a lot of markets yesterday. I don't like when Trump's in another country and then all his speeches are at like 4:30. When I refer to times, yeah, I'm talking Eastern time. Whenever I give times, Austin, so you commented that. Let's see, what else do we have later for today? Yeah, I guess after these like morning remarks, this is kind of mostly it today. I guess you're kind of right there, BitBop, but they'll probably add some stuff. Like, are there no NBA games tonight?
We invite you to check in throughout the day on our website, streaming app, and social platforms for breaking news, up-to-the-minute headlines, and AccuWeather. And remember, you can always find us on Channel 7, your home for eyewitness news.
You're going no on Hochul Governor. I don't know. I'd be careful, I guess. UFC tomorrow? Yeah, I know. Definitely. There's one of the first ever UFC announcer mentions tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. Both the announcer mention and the actual fight. What was my opinion on the Warner Bros. Strike? I personally thought it should go yes. It was a funny strike because for Warner Bros, I originally, when I first heard about the strike, I was immediately like, this has to go no. Because I was talking about it with some other people like a week before, when we were thinking about it, because we were trying to think of like times where stuff could be a mismog. Main reason I thought it should go yes is that Warner Bros, the company, is actually pronounced as Warner Brothers, theoretically. Like, the correct pronunciation of Warner Bros is Warner Brothers. No one really ever says Warner Bros, right? You say Warner, like Warner Brothers is how you pronounce it because it's just a shorthand for it. And also it gets transcribed as Warner Bros usually when people say Warner Brothers in a lot of cases. So yeah, my assumption was kind of that, like, because of that, because Warner Brothers is a reasonable pronunciation of Warner Bros, I thought it would go yes. But I didn't have a position on it, thankfully, so did not get burnt. But I was yeah, I mean, it's good information for future speeches, right, to take that and see where it goes. The funniest market was yesterday on the earnings call market. Not sure if you guys saw it for Intel securities. That was a huge dispute yesterday. I tried to pick some cheap no's, but I couldn't get any. I was ready for it, and then I kind of zoned out during the speech a little bit because it kept dragging on, and they said securities at the end. But for anyone that doesn't know the securities thing, Logan Paul Pikachu chain, man, I gotta get into those weird markets. Look, Ivan, I don't know. You know, I only have one position on this. I don't feel great about it, but I'm just like, look, I was just stupid vibes of like, okay, do I think security goes yes or no? It's gonna be crazy. So I was getting ready to buy no's. I was getting ready to kind of stink bid no, to be honest, because of the whole thing that happened with Quanta. So for those that don't have context on kind of some of the historical resolutions, can you buy a mentioned market after the phrase was said with a limit order? Yeah, you can, but you have to be very fast, obviously. So you're probably not going to be fast enough unless you put a lot of time into it. There's a lot of stuff you got to figure out to be fastest. But buying words after they were said at 99 is called bonding. And yeah, a lot of people do it. I do it a good amount. Not as much anymore, but I used to sometimes bond like 40K on markets. Yeah, Ivan, that's a fair point to bring up on the whole Kathy thing. That's why I don't know. Someone was saying they were taking no on Hochul governor. I would be careful for that reason, I guess. No gang. But yeah, anyways, the security strike yesterday. So for those that don't have context, there was another mentioned market where Quantum was one of the strikes, and they mentioned a proper noun, the name of a company that includes the word quanta. And quanta is technically the plural form of quantum. And it was like quanta computing or something. So you could theoretically argue that quanta, since that is a plural form of quantum, it should count. But they ruled that quanta computing is like its own proper noun. Therefore, like the quanta piece of it does not count as the plural form of quantum. So people used that rationale yesterday for when they would refer to like a company like Bank of America Securities, Jeffrey or something like that. Yeah. Did you get burnt at all, BitBop, on securities yesterday? That could have been a very risky one if you had automated. I should have messaged you. I was gonna try to stink bid it, but then a ton of people found out about it, and like the order book was like so corrupt. I had screenshots yesterday. It was like 3K in bids on no at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like people were so ready for it to hit. And then people started buying heavy on the no's. I think it closed at like maybe 80-20 on the no side or 70-30 on the no side. I don't think they've ruled yet, but no, not Rut, Bitbop. I'm talking about the Intel earnings call yesterday. If I have a $1,000 bankroll, what would be an appropriate 50% bet? Like 50% of your bankroll? I wouldn't really suggest ever doing that, unless you're like bonding. I would start way smaller when you're learning in the beginning. I mean, I would do like $5 on a mention, because you're not going to be profitable in the beginning. You know what I mean? You got to be really humble starting out, and then just do like $5. You'll learn how it works, and then eventually. Do I know the dispute was security? I just said exactly what the dispute was. Yeah. So you did not. Oh wow, the music's pretty loud. Yeah, I didn't even have my headphones on, so I couldn't even. Oh, you just missed me talking about it. Okay, I'll re-explain it. The securities dispute. How would they dispute securities when it's plural form? Okay, so here's what happened. There was another mention market like 2 weeks ago. The strike was quantum. That was one of the strikes. In the mention market, they mentioned a word that has quanta in the name. Quanta is the plural form of quantum. So they said like quanta computing or something like that. But they ruled that quanta in the proper noun name of like quanta computing does not count as the plural form of quantum, because quanta computing, or whatever the word was, I don't remember the exact word, is its own proper noun. So because the plural form was included in like a proper noun, like the name of a company, it did not count. So people are using that rationale to say that the strike was security, right? And they mentioned like B of A Securities or some equity research analyst company, the name that has securities in it. So they're ruling that it's the same. Not Kalshi's ruling, but people are arguing, that's why they're buying no, that it shouldn't count because resolve it. I think it's a pretty similar scenario. Like I was trying to buy no's for cheap, but I couldn't get any because so many people knew about it. I mean, if you looked at the order book, it was like 10 people were on it ready to try to get no's. They realistically could resolve it differently though, because like quanta, I was talking to some other people and they brought up good points. Like quanta is a little different from something like securities, because like when they say securities in the name B of A Securities, they're referring to the same type of thing, like security, you know? Do I use Kelly or how do I size? To be honest, I don't really use Kelly. I mean, I recommend it. It's a good thing to use. But like for most of you, yeah, I did see the consensual thing with AOC. But for most of you, like sizing is not what you should be worried about. Okay, if you're new or whatever, you should be sizing extremely small, like $5. Okay, you have to realize the only times you're gonna want to like start to worry about sizing, like first worry about actually being profitable and actually getting good, you know. So just start extremely small with like $5, even if you have $1,000 bankroll, and just test it out. Test out strategies to be good at mentions, whether that's like looking at historical data, whether that's live trading, finding certain edges in the, you know. So test it out with like $5 and just, you know, keep trying and see like if you actually are finding ways to be profitable. And then after like a few weeks of showing that you can consistently be profitable in mentions or whatever category you're in, then you can start to think about like sizing all these others. But like, don't worry about like all these other things in the beginning if you haven't even proven to yourself that like you can actually be profitable in the long run, you know? Because there's no point in like getting more technical on like all that like Kelly sizing stuff that relies on you being able to actually give like a reasonable fair value of something yourself. So like if you're new, you're never going to be able to give a good fair value. Because you won't really know what you're doing. So can't hear a word? Make sure the stream's not on mute. But yeah, that would just be my advice. Like, don't put the cart before the horse. You know what I mean? Just focus on trying to be profitable, and then, because look, if you try this out for a week, it's like the other thing why I say start unbelievably small is you're gonna make a ton of mistakes in the beginning because you're not gonna know how to use an exchange. Like, there's a lot of like weird things that you'll probably mess up on. So like those losses, you want them to be small. Like I've traded on exchanges for almost 2 years now, but a little over a year and a half, and like I will still have like mistakes where I'll like misclick something and I'll lose like $1,000 in an instant. It's the cost of doing business. Like, you're never going to be 100% because everything I do is manual, right? Like, in terms of trading, you're going to make mistakes. So like as a new user, you're going to make so many more mistakes that you should, and the other thing why I say to start small is the reality, right, of this is the majority of you are not going to be profitable trading things like mentions and just being on an exchange. Like, you know what I mean? The model doesn't work if everybody's profitable. So you have to be very humble in the beginning, see if you actually are profitable, and then go from there. Yeah. I think like so much of the mindset like applies to poker too. Like, people in poker get so like, I don't know, focused on like sizing, bankroll, like all that stuff. You were doing some college football first. The announcer mentions for college football, or like actually picking teams? I would definitely recommend, if you're a new user, to avoid sports in the beginning, because like sports are a very efficient market. So it's very unlikely that you're actually going to be able to beat them if you're a new user. But, yeah, that's like almost never going to work long run. You might go on a hot streak and think you can win in the long run. But I mean, eventually there are angles to. James Dilf just broke 20K profit yesterday. Dang. Good work. What did you start with? You should share whatever you learned to the chat. But that's a big accomplishment, man. Nice. $100. Damn, what the hell? But see, okay, look, you started extremely small, like, which is what I always say. That's why it's like you don't need to start with a lot of money, and I would never advise it. Oh, you just were taking the no on Mississippi State. That's probably a good strategy long run. But I feel like they can come close in some spreads sometimes. Do you mostly do mentions? The stream I'm watching is Eyewitness News ABC 7 New York on YouTube. Just search that, it'll come up. There's also a stream on New York City Mayor's office. But shoot, if this keeps getting pushed back, then I'm going to need to have the Trump thing ready. Make sure I don't have any open bids. Go ahead and bond Snow. I know. I wonder, what's funny is snowstorm one word? Snowstorm is one word. So it would actually be really funny if they said only snowstorm throughout the speech. Because in my opinion, that would go no. And that would be the funniest thing for snow/storm, to go no on the word snowstorm. I want to just post that in the chat. That would be... Yeah, I just started, and man, I made a lot of mistakes buying old contracts I thought was live. Yeah, exactly. Of course, someone's calling me. Always happens right when I start streaming. Just started, yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be buying old contracts, so you got to make sure you're getting information. I think like when you're new in the beginning, you should be very careful. Um, Trading in terms of like just think through stuff very closely. You know what I mean? Like before, in the beginning, you want to hesitate a lot. Is my point, because anytime you see a market that you think is wildly mispriced, just think it through. Is it actually mispriced? You know. But once you trade a lot, you show that you're maybe profitable over a long run. That's where you can like trust your intuition and be confident that maybe like the market actually is crazy and you know something it doesn't. But you've moved dimensions. You're excited about Oscars. Yeah, that'll be cool. I might do something on the Oscars. Stuck in Eye of, is it mispriced or am I missing something? Yeah, the honest truth is, in the beginning, you probably are going to be missing something in like 80 to 90% of scenarios, right? Um, so that's why it's actually, well, you might have times that you'll think it's wrong and then it turns out to actually have been wrong and you feel like you missed out. It's like just really important to be careful in the beginning when you're new, because like your judgment probably is not going to be to the level of where like you'll consistently, you'll think something's mispriced and it actually will be. But once you build up reps over time, you build your own confidence, you start to get how this stuff works, like that's where you can start to kind of have conviction on stuff. Don't try to win rules cucks thinking it's free money. Yeah, definitely do not, especially if you're on the newer side, ever participate in rules cucks, because like you probably just won't know all the historical like stuff people are using to like you could have reasonably thought the whole security case yesterday was like just a dumb rules cuck that would never work. But if you actually knew the historical like precedent, it was pretty reasonable that it could possibly go no. And I mean, that's what the market closed at, is thinking it's going to go no. Man, if Mamdani's way too delayed, it's going to dip into the White House. Do they already have a stream up for the March for Life? Besides mentions, do you want to learn something else and be knowledgeable in more politics or switch to sports? Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking at other stuff. I actually, like if you look at my profits this month, most of it is coming from sports. So like, let's see, on the week, so far this week, I'm up 11K. If we look at mentions, I've made 6K from mentions this week and 5K from sports. So, but like actually on the month, if we look at it, on the month, I've made 40K from sports and only 15K from mentions. So right now I'm pretty diversified across like sports and mentions. And yeah, I'm constantly looking at sports more. I've been doing that more. I'm new to mention trading. Do you do anything extra to reduce latency on streams? Yeah, there's stuff you can do. I mean, a basic thing is just like if you're watching on YouTube, just fast forward your stream on YouTube, play it at like 1.5x, and it'll speed up. I do a mix salt egg of the announcer mentions, so a lot of money on announcer mentions, and then also just the actual like sports game itself, trading that. I won't get into like any specifics, to be honest, of like what I'm doing on some of the sports stuff. I don't want to be too public about it. But yeah, it's a mix of like announcer mentions and actual games. Do you always use streaming, never use antenna? Yeah, right now I just use streaming. Free alpha to ideas, yeah. I'm pretty bad at listening to English, then these markets are not available to me. Yeah, I mean, the only risk is like if you're not... What's up, Mr. Nick? Congrats, Mr. Nick, on 20K, by the way. You hit like, what, you made like 10K the last 2 weeks or something? Yeah, if you're pretty bad at listening to English, it can be difficult to trade these mentioned markets. But Bitbop, who was just in the chat, who I believe has a like non-English speaking background, still trades mentions. But it definitely can be difficult. Yeah, Mr. Nick. January has been solid. It has been legendary. Man, so is Mamdani really going to pour this into the March for Life? So we're going to have all of these on at the same time? You think security goes yes or no? I think it goes... I mean, I lean towards it going no, but anything can happen, you know? But I was going to try to buy cheap no shares, but so many people knew about the play, I guess, that, like, you couldn't even get in. March for Life is until 12? It said 10 a.m. Is it pushed back? Oh, shoot. Okay. All right, that's kind of good. Maybe I'll be able to get breakfast, bagel after this. If I haven't ate breakfast, then I'll come back for the March for Life thing. Is that Mamdani? All right, here's Mamdani. About to start. Storm right in the beginning.
Your city is prepared.
Sorry, audio back up.
Across
back up.
every single level of government, we are working together to ensure that our streets are being kept clear, that New Yorkers are safeguarded, and that the most vulnerable among us are being connected with shelter. At 6 a.m. this morning, the sanitation department began brining our highways and major roadways. And for those unfamiliar, brining is a process where a salt and water solution is sprayed, making it much harder for snow to stick and for ice to form. Tomorrow, as the storm nears, we're going to see thousands of DSNY collection trucks and agency partners transformed into the nation's largest snow fighting operation. This is an operation that I trust with every ounce of my being in being the ones that will deliver us the exact kind of city response we need to see this weekend. We are going to see more than 2,000 of those sanitation workers begin 12-hour shifts starting tomorrow evening. They will salt as soon as we see the first snowflakes hit the ground with 700 salt spreaders, and then as soon as we see 2 inches of snow accumulate, we're going to see 2,200 plows activate across the city. That, by the way, is likely to occur Sunday morning. And all of this is going to be overseen internally by DSNY's Blade Runner 2.0 system, which monitors plowing and salting in real time to ensure that every community, every neighborhood, every part of New York City will be met with the services of the city government. Now, this is a storm that will also bring with it significant amounts of precipitation. It will carry a cold front as well. And that is why we have enacted a code blue, now in effect, which has been in effect since last night. This means that homeless services outreach workers have been and will continue to canvass the 5 boroughs so that we are connecting homeless New Yorkers with shelter and bringing them out of the cold. DHS is going to be bypassing the intake operation procedures just to ensure that we are getting people into these shelters as quickly as possible. No one is going to be denied across the city. And finally, while we are still waiting to make a final decision on whether school will be in person or virtual, we will communicate that decision to families by noon on Sunday. That is going to be a decision between in-person learning and remote learning. I have to apologize to the students that were hoping for a different answer for a traditional snow day. That will not be the case. We will also be canceling PSAL activities on Sunday. Throughout every step of this storm, city government is going to communicate directly to you as New Yorkers. I encourage every New Yorker to join the more than 1 million who have already signed up for Notify NYC. You can do that by texting Notify NYC to 692-692. We will be sending you texts, updates, and alerts, and we will also regularly brief New Yorkers over the course of this weekend. And finally, I want to encourage New Yorkers to do their parts to stay safe this weekend. That is why we are issuing a hazardous travel advisory for Sunday and for Monday. So if you need groceries, if you need a new winter coat, if you need anything, frankly, that you are thinking about for this weekend, today is the day to make that trip. Because once the snow begins to fall, I want to encourage New Yorkers to do something that we don't often have the luxury of doing, which is to take a breath and stay home. Stay indoors, stay off the roads, watch the snow come down, watch the worst possible reality TV show you can find, and take some time away from the roads. Because while this is going to be a big storm, these are the kinds of challenges that New Yorkers and the hardworking men and women of New York City government overcome all the time. And it's a moment that this city is prepared to meet. So I ask once again to stay out of the elements and to know that the people alongside me and the hardworking men and women who are already hard at work across the city will be the ones to ensure that this is a storm that meets its match in the city. Thank you, and I'm now going to pass it over to our MTA CEO, Janno Lieber.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know some of us who dread reality TV are glad to know there's also football if it comes to that. But thank you for your leadership. And I've been in touch with Governor Hochul this morning. She's declared a statewide state of emergency. Obviously, the principal impacts of this pending storm are likely to be downstate. But she asked me to underscore the MTA will be operational this weekend. Obviously, we have detailed plans in place for storms like
so far
this
is safe,
to protect the network, to protect our riders, and to protect our employees. We pre-position a ton of equipment and personnel. I want to thank our workforce in advance. I know there are many city agencies that are going to be working 24/7, but the MTA workforce is always standing by and ready to deliver. We have 220 miles of subway that is out of doors. I won't specify the lines. New Yorkers know what they are. We'll be focused on making sure that those continue to be operational with our snow fighting trains, with the de-icing systems. We'll have tow trucks ready for wherever they are needed. And the same goes for the commuter railroads. So, but in any case, the bus network is ready to pick up the slack, as it always does in these situations. In these major storms, we have 35 snow fighting vehicles that can rapidly clear block streets, and all the buses will be fitted with trains. Articulated buses, those longer buses, will be taken out of service for safety reasons.
All right, we got to have affordable
but
early. 'Cause
otherwise, the entire bus fleet will be in action. Bridges and tunnels.
Sell this at 80 pre-Q&A.
We've got over
Probably
9,000 tons of
actually,
roadway
but
de-icer and over 100 pieces of equipment at the ready. The bottom line, New Yorkers, is this ain't our first rodeo at the MTA. We have handled big storms. New Yorkers have handled big storms, and we're ready to do this again this weekend. The mayor mentioned all the New York City apps and
really
alerts to stay in touch with. We also have the same with the MTA. So pay attention to the MTA app, to the train time app, social media, digital screens in the stations. We'll have updated information. And we have an MTA service alert system, which can send you real-time personalized info. Get on the MTA website, sign up for that,
not a bad
so
idea,
you'll know
Ivan,
how your part of the MTA system is working as we go through this storm. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Governor, for your leadership as well.
Thank you, and I'm now going to call up Chancellor Kamar Samuels.
All right.
See if I can get any
What an exciting first month on the job. But even though this is a new role for me, as a teacher, principal, superintendent, it was always my delight to make sure we were making the best decisions on behalf of our young people. And this is no different. Over the past several days, teams across our system and city agencies have been working around the clock to monitor the weather, assess our options, and plan for every possible scenario. By the latest, noon on Sunday afternoon, we will announce whether schools will be, either pivoting to remote or open for instruction. In either case, learning will continue in an environment the city deems safe. We know that families need timely, clear information to plan their schedules. And we are committed to getting you those updates as quickly
You don't think there's
as
going to be
possible.
Q&A?
As a teacher, principal, superintendent, and now chancellor, I've seen many corners of this extraordinary system. I want personally to thank educators, custodian teams, food service workers, nurses, support staff, bus drivers, superintendents, and so many other of our hard-working, dedicated staff each day. Please note that these decisions are managed with great care and attention to detail, with our families' safety as a top priority. In the meantime, we encourage all our families, to use Notify NYC, as well as look out for Gamma messages from from New York City Public Schools. Now, I do want to announce a follow-up to the mayor that PSAL activities are canceled for Sunday. We also have other extended use permits that will be canceled for Sunday, as well as any Sunday academies. So I want to thank you all for your timely responses and encouragement, and say we are ready for whatever eventuality there is.
All right, here he comes back. Just gotta be ready if he says like no Q&A.
On-topic questions, please. All right, let's start with Katie. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Mayor Mamdani.
Okay.
And for the chancellor, the last time that schools went full remote, it was a disaster, for lack of a better term. I've spoken to parents and teachers. The only guidance they've received is bring your devices home, and we'll let you know by noon Sunday what's going to happen. What have you and the city schools done to prepare both students, teachers, and administrators to ensure that Monday isn't a disaster with a successful remote school day?
I think the first thing is preparing in advance, and I think one of the issues that many students, teachers, and parents faced last time around was the inability for the system to handle the amount of people who were logging on all at once. And so I've been heartened by the work that our incredible chancellor and all those of the DOE have done to stress test the system in advance. So yes, on Sunday by 12 p.m. we will let parents, teachers, and students know whether the day will be in person or remote, but we are preparing for the possibility of remote such that we do not repeat those mistakes of the past. Chancellor, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so I was a superintendent when the day you're talking about, that day will live in infamy. I will say that very clearly, I want to say very clearly, we have prepared in numerous ways for what might be a pivot to remote for next week. And we've stress tested the system both in person with students logging in, and as well we've had simulations. So we are prepared now, and we've increased the capacity to make sure that we can house as many students as possible on that day. So we now have the capacity of having 1 million students logging at the same time within 60 seconds. We now have that. And then secondly, we've also talked to parents and families about logging in early on Sunday so you can get prepared and used to the system. And then also having a staggered schedule on Monday to make absolutely sure that we are prepared and have the capacity. So I'm very, very confident after having worked with so many of our partners to make sure that this is going to be successful in the login process.
When was the last time you did the test?
The most recent test was in December.
Question about the weather for both the mayor and maybe Commissioner Isbell can weigh in on this as well. What concerns you the most about this storm now that we've seen there is sleet, possibly freezing rain, icing, and extreme cold involved in it? What are you most worried about when it comes to this storm?
I think the thing that would worry me is if we find New Yorkers going about their lives as if there was no storm. And we want to encourage everyone to stay home. We want to encourage everyone that if there's a trip you need to take, if there's a person you need to see, do that today, do that tomorrow. But on Sunday, that is a day that we encourage everyone to stay home. Now, we are preparing for a range of potential snowfall, right? We're seeing the estimates now around 8 to 9 inches, let's say at the very least. It climbs up to potentially about a foot, if not a little bit more. What heartens me, frankly, is that in the work and in the meetings that I've been having with the incredible leadership that we have here is the knowledge of what the hardworking men and women of city government are already doing. So I'll give you this example. Brining the highways and major roadways. That's not just critical in preparing for the storm, but also in ensuring that once the storm has passed, that we can return back to the city as it was. This is when we're talking about the salting of the streets, when we're talking about the snowplow. I mean, the city has procured 700 million pounds of salt in advance of this storm to be prepared for this. So I feel quite confident in the abilities of those around me and in those who work for this city. And frankly, I'm thankful for their work, because what we're talking about is work that began at 6 a.m. today. What we're talking about is work that's going to be 12-hour shifts. It's going to be round the clock from a number of different agencies. But Commissioner, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, as the mayor was saying, I think a big concern is what people do with their time on Sunday. You know, it's not only important for their safety that they stay home, it's also enables our sanitation workers and crews to do their work clearing roads. It's also really important that if there are emergency crews that need to move around the city, that they can do that easily. And then I think the other thing that we are keeping our eye on, and I say this to somebody who's, it's my job to really be concerned about everything, but we're keeping a very, very close eye on the forecast Sunday night to see how that develops. And we're still a little bit early out. But as the mayor said, you know, it is really remarkable the amount of work that these city agencies do and these city workers going into an event like this days in advance. You think about all of the sanitation crews, folks from Department of Transportation, NYPD, FDNY. It really is remarkable. I think the big thing is we really need New Yorkers to do their part.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
That was weird.
For Jano, does the work on the railroad?
Sorry. Jenna had to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Congrats on the new position.
Thank you. Let's talk about it. For city government workers, are they going to be encouraged to work remotely if they can, and then how to customer?
Yeah. So we're going to have all uniform services are going to be working as normal, typically, which is in person on Monday. DCAS is going to be sending advisory out to other city workers on Monday with agency-specific directives. And all of this, I think, comes back to something that the commissioner was also mentioning earlier, as well as the chancellor. This comes back to safety. And a lot of this depends on the amount of snowfall that we're going to see on Sunday. But as soon as we have a sense of what it will look like for Monday's conditions, that's the kind of guidance that's going to be given. And DCAS is going to be sending those directives agency by agency, but when it comes to our uniform services, they're going to be reporting in person.
And then you had a question for the chancellor?
Yeah.
For the stress tests on the virtual school system, are you saying there's been no tests since December? And if so, why haven't there been more recent tests that you guys have had?
Yeah, so I think we have simulations that we're running all the time, and the stress tests have, most recent ones have been in December.
All right, we'll go to Dave right here.
Other ones now? Just added this one?
These are the last tests of December. Dave, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going? You got to wear a jacket on Sunday. Please. I know.
Do you know what a snack down is?
A snack down?
Snack down.
To be honest with you, I don't know what a snack down is. Yeah.
So when you have a storm, a snowstorm, snow all comes, and it forms kind of a curved extension over snow and everything. And a lot of people say this is an opportunity to, when you see these, to say,
I know where you're going.
Which space we're wasting, not extending curves, things like that. And obviously there's a lot to do while it's not happening, before it's not happening, but once it's done, is it something you're going to maybe send people around, look at it, and go, these are places where we can curve extensions, these are places where we can take back pieces of the street?
Well, I think that this is something now for us to follow up on. I think it is. We are always looking to meet the challenge of this moment and also looking to build out the city that we deserve in the medium and the long term. And I think that one part of your question is also about street safety. And I think that is a critical directive that we have for our DOT is how do we make our streets the envy of the world. And I look forward to any of the medium and long-term lessons we can learn from this weekend about street design beyond just the question of meeting the snows. Thank you. Hey, how's it going? No worries.
As for yourself, where will you be on Sunday logistically? How will you be monitoring the storm and the city's response to it?
So I'm going to spend a portion of Sunday out with city workers to make sure that we are getting a full sense of both what is being done, but also communicating directly to New Yorkers. And I think this is just another opportunity to say that, you know, we are going to share this message, whether it's through the television channel that a New Yorker turns to, whether it's through the radio that they're listening to, but also we encourage everyone to sign up for Notify NYC. We have about, I think it's 1.3, 1.4 million New Yorkers who are currently signed up. We want to get that number up so everybody gets those updates. And then my job is to make clear that this is a city that's prepared, and then to keep in close contact with not only the leaders that you've already heard from, but also my deputy mayor, who is really not only running the entire operations, but is staying close at hand with any of the updates.
Marcia, go ahead. Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if I could ask you a question. Historically, mayors have been judged by how they handle snow. And I wondered if you've looked at the mistakes made by some of your predecessors. You've seen any pitfalls you'd like to avoid and how it's going to affect how you handle this snowstorm and how you want to be judged by New Yorkers afterwards.
You know, I think one of the key directives that I've both given myself as well as the team around me is that we will over-communicate with New Yorkers. We are going to tell you at every instance when we have new information about this storm what it is. So initially, I'll give you an example. The forecast, it said it could be as little as 3 inches of snow. It said it could be as much as 16 inches. Now we're seeing that forecast start to narrow a little bit. Now we're seeing the minimum number closer to about 8 or 9 inches. We're seeing the maximum number still be a little over a foot. But we're going to get that message out there because I think that this is a time where we want to make sure that city workers have every ability they can to deliver on their job. And what makes it easier for them to do their job is the more New Yorkers that stay home. We want to make sure, just one more point, Marcia, I'll give you an example. We have our fire commissioner here, right? One of the key points that was being shared with me and with other city workers is how do we make sure that we do not have ambulances that are being prevented from being able to access New Yorkers or access the streets? How do we make sure that we're not facing another situation where there are preventable outcomes taking place? So that's what is at the basis of our communication. That's why I'm also trying to be everywhere as I can to keep that in mind.
Follow-up question I have is this: in the past, since I've covered snowstorms since the dinosaurs roamed the earth, there have been instances where ambulances couldn't get through, buses couldn't get through, streets were not plowed, so that some streets, like for example under de Blasio, some streets were plowed to the tar, and then other places didn't get plowed at all. So do you have a plan to make sure that there's equal plowing in all 5 boroughs, so that no community can say you missed us?
Yes. We absolutely do. And that's part of the conversation we were just having. New Yorkers can actually stay up to date. I think it's with Plow NYC, which is the public-facing information portal around the plowing patterns across the city. Internally, we have something called Blade Runner 2.0. And this is to ensure that no New Yorker is made to feel that depending on the zip code or their neighborhood, they're going to receive a different level of service. You're going to receive the same level of service across the city. And I think the other portion of this is we're talking about with DSNY, the largest snow fighting operation in the entire country.
Same speed.
We're talking about the transformation of collection trucks into ones that can both salt this city. We're talking about 700 of those trucks, and then we're talking about 2,200 plows. So all of this together, it's what gives me the confidence.
This one is 1 year. Shoot, I'm missing this now.
This city, we were talking about 700 of those trucks, and then we're talking about 2,200 plows. So all of this together, it's what gives me the confidence that we're going to see a city that will meet the moment, no matter if it's 8 inches of snow, 13 inches of snow. I will say that one thing that a number of New Yorkers have shared with me is we seem to have large snowstorms every 10 years. It was 96, it was 06, it was 16, it's 26. We're going to be ready. Hey, how's it going?
Just 2 questions. At what point do you declare a state of emergency because of the snow? Where are the markers for?
Here comes
for yourself and for the folks at the podium? Like, where is that point where you decide it's a state of emergency? And also, can you go into depth as to what the NYPD and what FDNY will also be doing at those times, and even like what 311 or 911 operations are going to be?
So I can just tell you briefly, and then I'll pass it over to Deputy Mayor Kersen.
Wow.
Just in advance of this weekend, we also know that NYPD is going to be assisting with some of the traffic routing operations that we'll see across the city. Every single agency and department is going to be playing a role. It's 16, it's 20. DSNY is taking the lead on the snow plowing, but that doesn't mean that the Parks Department is not also going to be assisting in some of that work. I'm going to pass it over to DM Kersen for some of the additional.
Our emergency declarations largely allow for restricted traffic, so we'll be monitoring roadway conditions and then determining if those additional restrictions are necessary. We have those materials drafted and are ready to go if we start to see that those conditions warrant an emergency declaration.
Kelly right here, then Hi, Mr. Mayor, over here.
Hey, hi, Kelly.
I wanted to ask you, in response to Marcia's question, previous mayors have underestimated how much snow we've gotten, and that has left them a little flat-footed. Do you have a plan for if we get more than 1 foot or significantly more, do you have, teams that will be ready to go on top of whatever
Every possible outcome. Right? Just because we might want to see 8 inches of snow does not mean we're not preparing for 16 inches of snow. And I think that's what gives me a real sense of confidence is that these are the incredible men and women who are leading so much of the work across the city so that no matter how much snow falls, it's a city that's ready. And I think the other part of this is just to explain part of the reason why we're not making a determination until Sunday at 12 p.m. about whether school on Monday will be in person or remote is precisely because of the range in forecast. We take it very seriously when we call for a remote school day because we know that it has an impact on parents' lives. So we want to both be respectful of their lives and give them enough time to make the plans if necessary for a change in Monday.
Sorry, Big Bob.
Timmy and then Liz.
I had a question about the remote learning. Obviously, I can see the argument for not wanting to cancel school.
It's a hard life, Big Bob.
Childcare disaster. If the kids are already at home, what is the benefit of forcing them to be on laptops, requiring parents to oversee them, and keeping them just opposed to doing, life's rare joy?
I'm not going to contend that a snow day is not one of life's rare joys. I will tell you that growing up in the city was one of my favorite memories. To be very clear and direct with New Yorkers, we are also bound by state law that requires 180 days of instruction. And as previous administrations have added additional holidays into the school calendar, it leaves our school calendar without any flexibility for the potential of a lack of an educational day. So if it is too much snow to call for students and educators to come to school, that's what also pushes us to require remote learning to take place from home.
Liz, go ahead. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
I wanted to follow up on that question.
Please.
What is your opinion of remote learning? And were it not for the restrictions of the calendar, let's say you had the flexibility and you could have given kids a snow day, would you have? I guess I'm trying to ask, is it really the end of traditional snow days in New York, or can you see another time where, barring the calendar, the school calendar, you would be willing to grant kids a day off?
I will not stand here and say that it's the end of anything. I will tell you that for Monday, however, these are the two options. And I think that there is, we will operate under the constraints as we have from the state, but we are also in the knowledge that those are constraints that could change at some point in the future. I'll add if the Chancellor wants to add anything.
Well, you don't have to look too far to realize the mayor is a lot more fun than I am.
Really
right?
nice.
And so, for me, I think it's very, very clear that, given the constraints that we have with the state, and given the new life and the new era that we're in, there are benefits to remote learning. And I might offer that folks might begin to think about this as reimagining what the snow day looks like. No one is asking kids to be on a device for 6 hours and 20 minutes, right? And so we have to be flexible in our approach. Some learning will be synchronous, some will be asynchronous. You can still have your hot chocolate, you can still go out and enjoy the snow, but we really want to make sure that, especially since the pandemic, our children have missed more school than they did before, and we want to make sure that instruction continues even when it's disrupted by weather, or attempted to be disrupted by weather patterns.
All right, we've got time for one more. Hannah, go ahead. I know Hannah's not here, but I'm wondering, is there a certain amount of snow in which, the MTA has had you that there will be significant delays, no doubt? Is there a threshold in the amount of snow,
What we've heard from the MTA is that they're prepared for any potential eventuality across the spectrum of snowfall that we've been briefed on. And I think that is something that, whether it's the trains, whether it's the buses, we are talking about a system that can handle this and a system that is prepared. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. All right, let's take one more and then we have to go. Go ahead.
What does the capacity look like given the cold blue right now? I mean, is there enough space in shelters to safely house people who are going to be taken in from the cold? So what does that look like?
Absolutely. There is enough capacity for homeless New Yorkers, and I want to say thank you to the city workers at our Department of Homeless Services who have been doing the work of actively canvassing homeless New Yorkers wherever they may be across New York City to get them into whether it's single unit beds or stabilization beds. And the most important thing is getting homeless New Yorkers off the streets, out of the cold, into shelter. And that's why, as we've been briefed, we are seeing DHS saying, the standard operating procedures of intake and all the different forms and procedures we have to go through, those are being put aside for a moment of a code blue. Because right now, we're not just talking about snowfall, we're talking about cold. And these are things that, if left together without any kind of a city response, the consequences could be significant. And so what we want to do is keep every single New Yorker safe. That includes homeless New Yorkers.
Thank you
for your question.
Yeah, immediately jumped. All right, whatever. Made like $130. Definitely got wrecked by probably cable watchers. All right, let's see, how late is this whole Trump thing gonna be? Apparently this Trump speech is pretty delayed. All right, the actual March for Life thing doesn't even list it till 11 now. So I assume, yeah, Trump's address won't start until 11 is what they're saying. But, I mean, that's what just Kalshi says. I don't even know if that's right. Security went yes? Wow, dude. Holy, they are just vibing. How does Quanta go? Really? I didn't have anything on it, but... How do they go? Dude. Oh, a ton of people got raped. Ah, wow. I don't know. I guess you just can't use precedents, man. Ever. I don't know. People are saying irregular plural. Quanta as the company name doesn't refer to the plural of quantum. What was the exact company name they said? Quanta. Holy. Alex the Duck. 16K pending payout. Holy shit, he flipped towards the end. Hochul's about to speak. Is there a mention for Hochul? She's giving a childcare announcement? Dang. Okay, there really are a lot of mentions today. Wow. Crazy. I tried to get some too. I should have been watching that live. I can't believe I wasn't watching that mention like closer live and I didn't get a freaking position. Security. All right, let's see where Hochul is going to be streaming. Hochul will probably run into the March for Life.
Managers, our DOT and thruway crews have been pre-treating the roads already, and we have plenty of salt. I just
7 minutes till Hochul. Oh, dude, I feel like Trump's speech at the March for Life is going to be at like noon, too. Do I miss Joe Biden speeches? No, dude. Not at all. Trump speeches are so much better. All right, I'm going to go get breakfast. I'll have the stream back when Trump comes. So we're going to pause here. I'm starving. But I'll come back when Trump is out. Yeah, I was talking about the whole security thing earlier on the stream. It just went yes. Crazy, man. That's why I'm glad I haven't been playing any of these rule cuck disputes. I would have lost on both of them. Because I would have been on yes, or I would have been on yes for Warner Bros. And I would have been on no for security today. So I'm getting saved by not participating. All right, I'll be back. I think it's because I always overthink these things, you know? You can't overthink them.